EA Games.
Challenge everything.
Initiating satellite scan. Camera deployed. Link establishing. Satellite coming down in 3, 2, 1.
Outpost is being overrun. Artillery firing.
Welcome to duty.
Enemy troops!
infantry spotted.
Okay. Hostile forces spotted. Over. Enemy units on the move.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Ken. Roger that.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy unit.
Let's move.
Enemy unit.
Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy infantry 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 spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Oh!
UAV transmitting on this mark.
Enemy units on the move.
Supplies at your position.
Hey, thanks. Sorry, man. Enemy units on the move. Hey, thanks. Enemy units on the forces spotted. Over. Hostile forces spotted. Over. Sorry, Chief. Hostile forces spotted. Over. Hostile forces spotted. Over. Thanks, champ. Sniper! Go! 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 Go!
Enemy forces spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Medic! Medic!
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Position cleared and under control.
Enemy troop! Enemy troop! Medic!
UAV transmitting on this
Enemy
mark.
infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Position cleared and under control.
Medic! أين المسعف؟ أين المسعف؟ أين المسعف؟
Enemy infantry spotted. Oh!
UAV
Hey,
transmitting
thanks.
on this
Thanks,
mark.
champ.
Enemy sniper spotted.
Hey, thanks.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy sniper spotted.
Hostile
Enemy
infantry
forces
spotted.
spotted. Infantry spotted.
Enemy units on enemy troop! Enemy troop!
Enemy forces spotted.
Enemy units on the move! Enemy units on the move!
Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted.
Requesting reinforcements. Over.
UAV transmitting on this mark.
Hostile
Enemy sniper. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted.
Sniper! Enemy units on the move!
Enemy forces spotted.
Hostile units on the move!
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Hey, thanks.
We've lost control of an outpost. Enemy forces spotted.
Hey,
Enemy sniper spotted.
Thanks, champ.
UAV transmitting
Enemy
on
sniper
this
spotted.
mark.
Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Sniper spotted. Enemy sniper.
Okay.
Enemy infantry spotted.
Sniper! Enemy units on the move! Enemy units on the move! Thanks, champ. Okay. Hostile infantry spotted. Over. Enemy units on the move! Hostile forces spotted. Over.
Enemy forces spotted.
Hostile infantry spotted. Forces spotted. Over.
Transmitting on this mark.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Hostile forces spotted. Over. Hostile forces spotted. Over. Spotted. Over. Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Enemy troops.
UAV transmitting on
Enemy units on the move. Hostile infantry spotted. Over. Enemy troops. Hostile infantry spotted. Over. Enemy units on the move. Hostile forces. Enemy units on the move. 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 Enemy troops.
UAV transmitting on this mark.
Thanks, champ. Sniper. Roger that. Enemy units on the move.
Where are you going?
Hostile forces spotted. Over.
Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Thanks,
Enemy
champ.
forces spotted. Supplies.
Hostile forces spotted. Over.
UAV
Hostile sniper
transmitting
spotted.
on this
Over.
mark.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Hostile forces spotted. Over. Hostile sniper spotted. Over. Hostile sniper spotted. Over. Medic. Hostile infantry spotted. Over.
Enemy infantry spotted.
Hostile infantry spotted. Over. Enemy units on the move. Enemy
UAV
troops.
transmitting on this mark.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry. Enemy infantry. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Requesting ammunition. Over. Enemy units on the move.
Enemy infantry. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy troops. Enemy troops. Sniper.
UAV transmitting on this mark.
Sniper. Medic.
Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Okay. Enemy units on the move. We need support. Do you copy? Need ammo. Over. Go. Okay. Hostile infantry spotted. Over.
UAV
Hostile
transmitting
forces spotted. Over. Hostile forces spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Over. Enemy
Infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Sniper. Medic. Enemy units on the move.
UAV offline.
Sniper. Thanks, champ.
Enemy forces spotted.
UAV transmitting on this
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy unit.
Enemy
unit.
infantry.
Roger that. Running dry. Need sniper. Over. Running
Enemy
dry.
infantry
Need
spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Sorry, Chief.
Enemy infantry
Need
spotted.
ammo. Enemy unit.
Enemy forces spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry.
Enemy units on the move. Sorry,
UAV
Chief.
transmitting on
Okay.
this mark.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move.
Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Infantry spotted. Enemy units on the move. Enemy troops. Running dry. Need ammo. Over. Enemy troops.
UAV transmitting on this
Running
mark.
dry. Enemy troops. Need ammo. Over. Enemy troops.
Affirmative.
Enemy troops. Enemy units on the move. Enemy troops.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy troops. Sniper.
UAV transmitting on this mark.
Enemy troops.
Enemy infantry. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy forces spotted.
Enemy units on the move.
Let's move. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Enemy troops.
UAV
Enemy
transmitting.
troops. Sniper.
Enemy
units
infantry
on the move.
spotted.
Enemy units
Enemy
on the move.
infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move.
Hostile forces spotted. Enemy sniper spotted.
Enemy
Enemy
units on the
infantry
move.
spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move.
Hostile forces spotted.
Enemy units
Over.
on the move.
Enemy forces spotted.
Enemy units on the
UAV
move.
transmitting on this mark.
Enemy forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted.
Okay. Back. Enemy troops. Enemy units on the move.
You've been recommended for an award.
Back, champ.
Hostile
Enemy troops.
requesting ammunition. Over. Enemy infantry. Enemy infantry spotted.
Back, champ.
Enemy forces spotted.
UAV transmitting on this mark.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move.
Medic.
Hostile sniper spotted. Over. Enemy troops. Enemy units on the move. Enemy troops.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy
Units on the move. Enemy troops.
Hostile infantry spotted. Over. Enemy infantry spotted. Hostile forces spotted. Over. Hostile sniper spotted. Over.
Enemy units on the move.
Enemy sniper spotted. Roger that.
Enemy units on the move.
Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy sniper spotted.
Back, champ.
Thanks. Enemy sniper spotted. Hostile forces. Enemy sniper spotted. Hostile infantry spotted. Over.
Enemy units
Hostile
on the
infantry.
move.
Hostile infantry spotted. Over.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Enemy
Transmitting on
troops.
this mark.
Enemy infantry spotted. Over. Let's
Enemy
move.
units on the move.
sniper spotted. Enemy sniper.
Hostile infantry spotted. Over.
Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Hostile infantry spotted. Over. Enemy units on the move.
Enemy sniper spotted.
Enemy units on the move.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy sniper spotted.
UAV transmitting on this one.
Enemy units on the move. Sniper. Enemy units.
Enemy infantry. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy sniper spotted.
Hostile sniper spotted. Over.
Enemy infantry. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy sniper infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy sniper spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy sniper. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Sniper.
Enemy infantry spotted.
UAV transmitting on this mark.
Enemy infantry spotted.
Sorry, Chief. Okay.
Enemy sniper spotted.
Sorry, Chief.
Enemy
Sorry,
infantry
Chief.
spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on
Enemy
the move.
forces spotted. Enemy forces spotted.
Enemy troops.
Enemy forces. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy troops. Enemy troops.
Enemy infantry. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy troops. Enemy troops. Enemy troops.
Enemy infantry spotted.
Units on the move. Enemy units
Let's
on
move.
the move.
Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Troops. Enemy units troops. Enemy troops. Enemy units on the move. Sniper. Thanks, champ. Running dry. Need enemy units on the move.
UAV transmitting on this mark.
Sniper. Enemy units on the
Enemy
move.
infantry spotted. Enemy forces spotted.
Enemy units on the move.
Enemy infantry
Enemy
spotted.
units on the move. Enemy units on. Okay. Thanks, champ. Enemy troops. Running dry. Need ammo. Roger that. Enemy units on the move.
Enemy forces spotted. Enemy
troops. Enemy troops.
UAV transmitting on this mark.
Enemy units on the move. Sniper. Enemy troops.
Enemy infantry spotted. 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 Enemy sniper. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Running dry. Need ammo. Over.
UAV transmitting on this mark.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy troops.
Enemy infantry spotted. Over.
Thanks, champ. Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy sniper
Enemy
spotted.
troops. Enemy units on the move. Enemy units on the move. Enemy troops. Enemy troops. Hostile infantry spotted. Over. Medic. Enemy troops. Enemy units. Medic. Sniper. forces spotted. Enemy infantry.
Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted. Enemy infantry spotted.
Enemy units on the move.
UAV transmitting on this mark.
We're running low on reinforcements.
Sniper!
Enemy forces spotted.
Hey, thanks. Hostile forces spotted. Over. Medic. Enemy units on the move.
UAV.
Enemy
Enemy units on the move. Enemy troops. Enemy units on the move.
UAV transmitting on this mark.
Enemy troops.